This was done from before, but would you like to very briefly explain? Now, if we take too long, we'll be late at lunch, so that's your incentive to go very fast.
Okay. What you see here is the sea change community of practice logical model, and it starts with the inputs at this side, and then it moves to the 4 objectives, and under each objective it has activities, and those have sub-activities and outputs, or deliverables. And this range of outputs, deliverables, are mainly part of the monitoring framework that we use. So that's an ongoing effort, an ongoing reporting towards our funder. These are then the outcomes, which are a little bit harder to define. And this is then the impact that we want to make. So that's not an impact that we currently see as something we are measuring. We're making efforts to start measuring it, but it's pretty hard to actually measure the impact of a online network. As an example, one of the objectives is to mobilize learning efforts and innovative practices in M&E. And then one of the deliverables is that six webinars have been conducted. And for example, in reporting we have to show that the webinars have been conducted. We have to say something about the number of participants, and we do a post-webinar evaluation of how the webinar was perceived by the people who were taking part in it. Other things to evaluate this one is that each webinar has a number of knowledge documents linked to it, and also the recording of the webinar. We monitor how often these are being viewed, and we report on that one as well. Still, the fact that you have 50 people watching your webinar and that you have 150 people downloading the related documents doesn't say all that much yet about the outcomes. So that's a hard one. There is one point with respect to the outcomes that we look at the moment, and that is called an organizational network analysis, which we done as a baseline, which we done midterm, and which we done at the end of the grant period. And I'll quickly scroll through it. So what it does, it shows interaction between our members. And for example, here you have the baseline where you have, these were all the members at the moment of the baseline, which were 17 members. And then these were all the members in the midterm, which were 64 members. And these were all the members in the end evaluation, which were 266 members. And I have to say it's a very nice technique in our organizational network analysis. But the problem is that we currently have 483 members. And it's not possible anymore to do an organizational network analysis because you need to make a matrix between all members. And that matrix goes over all the different themes on which we share information, which are 8 different themes. And it's very hard to send out any type of evaluation in that respect to continue this type of analysis. We looked at the growth, we looked at the connections that people make, and we also looked at the resources that people access on each of the 8 themes, and this is one of the themes, which is climate change adaptation. So what you see here, that some of the resources are actually people, they're not organizations. And this is the midterm. If you then look at the final end-term evaluation, you see that more and more it are organizations that are seen as resources, and you see also that sea change in itself is seen as a resource. So this is one of the techniques we use, and it also identifies for us possible partners to collaborate with on each of the 8 technical themes on which we share information. And this is then mitigation in 2011, and this is then mitigation interaction in 2012. And the last one is for me the most interesting, because this is climate change policy, and the final impact that we want to have as a community of practice is that we make a difference towards policy development. And you see in 2011 it was very thinly spread, and if you then look at 2012 you see that there are much more interactions going on with respect to climate policy related resources and the sharing of information. So this is one way in which we look at outcome, but it doesn't yet say the whole picture. One thing that we want to do is that we want to use more significant change technique to interview members and see not just how much they made use of resources and not just how much it influenced the way they look at M&E, but also how much then that M&E influenced the programs in which they made use of that M&E. And that we would like to do through interviews and more significant change.
Thank you for that. And what do you see as the strengths and limitations of, this hysteria change model?
I mean, at strengths, it's pretty attractive. Weaknesses, it's not just it comes across as complicated. I think it's missing the start and the end. Picking up on your point about the difficulties of linking the outputs to outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
What's missing is your baseline that establishes what a problem is, and then what is the solution that you're aiming for. Because unless you've got your start and your finish, where is all that going? So what's the baseline problem that you are solving or looking to solve?
We have formulated that. We developed a charter at the start of the ONA baseline, and we have yearly general assemblies with our members, and we adjust the charter every year to see where we were at the beginning and how we are moving to develop that further. And the charter gives 3 focus points that basically guide the objectives that we have.
It would have been so much easier if your answer was the following.
Yeah.
We recognize that in the HIV/AIDS place, we have a 50% incidence of HIV/AIDS, and we would like to see in 10 years' time or 5 years' time a 50% reduction in HIV/AIDS.
Yep.
That's the model of a problem and solution statement that makes it easier to hang all of your work into. But when you've got we'll have a meeting every year, then we will reset our targets. It starts becoming very difficult to navigate an organization.
On the other hand, if you don't have a basis, I think we'll talk about this afternoon, if you don't have a basis for setting a target, then you're just grasping at straws and it isn't very, very meaningful and can be misleading. I mean, to me, there's a lot of interesting things here. I mean, some of the questions I have, these are basically outputs, which are nice and easy to measure, but your strategic stuff is more at this end. What I don't see in this model, a bit in your network models, is the interaction with other activities going on, other influencing factors.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff's pretty linear. Here's what you're doing, and there's all on the up here, but there's all sorts of other things which are influencing this.
Yeah.
Now we have a choice. We're supposed to be at lunch. We could take time for the other 2 presentations now, or we could do them right after lunch. Any thoughts? You want to go now, or take another 5 minutes to hear from you 2 tables, or should we have to go on lunch and do that when we come back? We're ready to go? You don't expect something pre-developed like this, but some of you. I mean, that wasn't the intention here. Just some of your preliminary thoughts about.